Welcome to another Dr. Joy podcast. I'm Professor Gary Metzger. I'm joined by Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
And of course, the one and only Dr. Joy.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Beautiful.
Excellent. So today on our podcast, I would like to do a little bit of a history lesson.
Oh.
Okay, a little bit of a history lesson. But before we get to the history lesson, a couple things, little stream of consciousness that was hitting me when I was arriving. And this is something that we've talked about before on our podcast. And I hope that you are joining us on YouTube to see our podcasts because they are really well done, I think. But we talk about joy as if it is only something that children exhibit. It's something that we expect around the holidays or a big life event, but joy is meant for our everyday lives. And as we've talked about before, there is definitely a difference between joy and happiness.
Right.
But we make those meanings, we make those words synonymous. And so, but happiness is an emotion. It's dependent on circumstances, and it can be switched off in an instant. Joy, on the other hand, I believe is more of a permanent outlook on life. And I think that's why we have JoyScore to help people reinforce that. It can be a state of mind, but, we don't manufacture joy like we can with happiness. It goes deeper than emotion. It's contentment in spite of circumstances, and we've talked about that before as well. Teddy Roosevelt said that comparison is the thief of joy. And how many times do you admire somebody and that admiration sometimes turns into jealousy? And so, that comparison can really take joy away from somebody. Once again, as we've discussed, true joy doesn't come from possessions. It doesn't come necessarily from success. It doesn't even come from relationships. So, Dr. Joy, I would love for you to start with maybe a few brief comments about Teddy Roosevelt, a little bit of history there.
That is kind of difficult.
How so?
Because the history, the history is very clear about he taught us how to be joyful, in my way of thinking. And out of all the presidents, I think he may have been maybe the only one who dealt with it. I don't know if anyone else really got into that aspect of life, where there are a lot of things which I've heard about him saying. But the thing which really comes across is like when you were talking about the difference between happiness and joy. And some clearly defined differences in my mind, at least, is like joy is internal. It comes from within. And happiness can be external. I think one time maybe I took an example of if you found a $20 bill walking on the sidewalk, you may feel a little happy. But if you give that $20 bill to someone who really needs it, it will bring you joy. So joy has a lot deeper sense of how we look at it, or mindset, where happiness could be temporary and just kind of come in and out. So that's what I think.
Right.
Okay, going back to answering your question.
Right. Steffi, how about you?
I can understand that the difference between you have a new car and you're just so happy, but you're not gonna stay happy with the new car. You need to find joy from within, because I think that joy is long lasting. So I really admire Dr. J because he's teaching people this like life lesson, like, and I just think how different the world is going to be when everybody takes this concept on. So, and yeah.
The Piggy, just kind of adding to what Steffi said, if just a little bit of a sidestep on, Braden Phillips, he ran Long Beach Police Department with 1,300 police officers. So one time, years ago, I asked him, I said, how early, what age do kids actually get incarcerated? Can you guess what age he said it was?
I would say 14 or 15.
12.
Really?
Yeah.
So not even a teenager.
No. So when he said 12-year-old, I said, Braden, they're kids. He said, yeah. That's when they start looking for joy. And they look for it in drugs, illicit sex, crime.
But that's temporary.
I know. But that's what they're looking for it there. But they don't find it there because, what does drugs do to you?
Yeah.
It gives you a temporary high, but then it's gone.
Right.
In fact, and he is the one who said that if they can just learn to be joyful, they can be high and happy forever. They don't need to do all those things.
Yeah. And that was my original question, but I didn't want to kind of change where the conversation was going. Because you mentioned that we look at joy as something only children have. So as someone that's raising a very young child, I want to know how I can keep that smile on his face and everything is new and stuff. So what would you kind of suggest that throughout his life he just keeps the joy? Is that possible?
Well, the best way to understand, and Braden again the same.
And that's a great question, by the way. That really is.
He said that, and he explains it well in a way, that when we are born, we are joyful.
Yeah.
We are born with joy. Even though we cry when we are hungry or whatever, but for the most part, we are born with joy.
Yeah.
As we grow, the life gets in its way of being joyful.
Yeah.
And we start relating to many other things. So, and the best way to answer your question, if a child can just be the child.
Yeah.
That's it. Doesn't have to want anything else. Or you let the child be the child.
Yeah.
Don't expect the child to be a grown-up.
Yeah.
Or be doing or behaving in a different way. A child is supposed to behave the way he or she is happy or joyful.
Yeah.
So then they have this innate sense of how to be joyful and how to create that joy.
Yeah.
We are the ones who have a hard time because life gets in our way.
They don't worry.
Yeah, they don't worry.
Right. So it's history lesson time if you're ready.
Yeah.
Are you ready? So where does the word joy come from?
Oh.
So I did a little research, and according to my internet research, the word joy comes from the Greek root word chara, C-H-A-R-A, and that means to be exceedingly glad. And chara means that joy has to do with inward peace and contentment. It is lasting and not based on outward, but inward circumstances. So I think that also answers a little bit of your question. How do you keep a young person?
So if you allow me, hey, can I ask GPT this question now?
That would be a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we on?
Hold on. Okay. Go for it.
Hello, ChatGPT. What is the definition of joy, the way you understand it? Didn't get it.
It's searching.
Is it?
It is. It says auto searching. Yeah.
Where do you see searching?
Hello there, Professor
Oh.
Joy. Well, the definition of joy would be a feeling of great pleasure and happiness.
Where is it?
That being
Hold on.
said,
It's
joy is a
talking
very
right now.
subjective feeling that can mean different things to different people. For some, joy might mean experiencing deep contentment or satisfaction.
Roll with it.
For others, it might mean feeling elated or exhilarated. Joy can also be more of a long-term sense of well-being or fulfillment rather than a fleeting moment of happiness.
Wow.
Ask more.
What else would you like to know?
I would like to know. This is what something I'd like to know. Ask ChatGPT, how did JoyScore get started? See if it has an answer.
Oh, hey, ChatGPT, do you know how JoyScore got started? Do you know the history of JoyScore?
I'm not familiar with a JoyScore Inc., unfortunately. I haven't heard of that company before. Do you have any details on what they do or how they got started?
Go ahead.
Well, let me explain to you. I think you should know about it.
So this is what the root of my history question
Yeah.
is. I don't think many people who are joining us on the podcast.
You're still talking to chat, by the way.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
So-
I'm explaining ChatGPT.
Got it.
Where did JoyScore start?
okay.
So the history of JoyScore started in 80s, actually inspired by a book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, written by Betty Edwards, who was the New York bestseller in 80s. And she and I started talking about doing another book, which was Designing on the Right Side of the Brain, and having learned the value of connecting with the right side brain and realizing that the way right side of your brain gets activated when you're joyful.
Cool. Hold on. It only goes so long.
I think you might be pulling my leg with this, but I'll continue to play along. I can see how the idea of a joy school could be inspired by such a book. I've never heard of it before, though. Tell me, what does the joy school do?
Uh-oh.
JoyScore.
Hold on.
Well, you
Hold
can
on,
call
hold
it
on, hold on.
JoySchool too.
Okay, now say it. Go ahead. Now you're talking.
JoyScore. So I kind of realize that JoyScore or joy does not only activate your right side of the brain, but it also is helpful in people achieving their goal in life of being successful. So as I research more, I realize that joy is the single element in life that can help people achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve. So once we learn how to be joyful, it's like learning how to drive. We can go anywhere we want to. And that's what really started happening. So I started telling my students to be joyful and be smiling in my classes. And the university paper did an article making fun of me that this professor kicks you out if you're not smiling in his class. But that really is where it started. And then moving forward, I continued to research it, wrote the first book called Joy in Health and Happiness, the second book, JoyScore, which I finished a few years ago. And then instead of just publishing the second book, I decided to develop an app called JoyScore. So now this app is launched and people are able to download it. We actually have over 100,000 downloads.
Okay, he's ready to talk.
Huh?
He's
He said shut up.
Okay, this is all starting to sound a bit too fanciful, but I'll keep playing along. So you're saying that you discovered that people could be more successful in their endeavors if they were joyful, and
Yes.
joy is like a life skill you can learn.
Absolutely.
Like driving. I think that's an interesting idea, but I'm curious how you started to measure
In fact,
joyfulness. How do you know if someone is truly being joyful? And how
this is interesting, actually.
So that was a good question. How do you know if somebody is truly joyful?
Yeah.
tell if someone
How
is
do we
truly
know?
learning joyfulness as a skill?
Do you want to ask?
A question to me or to ChatGPT?
Ask ChatGPT.
Hey, ChatGPT,
Nice.
how does one know if someone is joyful? You know, the good thing about ChatGPT is
There are a number of different ways you can tell if someone is joyful. One way is to look at their facial expression. A person who is feeling joyful will often have a smile on their face or an expression of contentment. Another way to tell if someone is joyful is to listen to their tone of voice. A person who is joyful will often speak in a tone that is light, warm, and upbeat. Additionally, you can look for signs of joyfulness in the person's body language. A person who is joyful may appear relaxed and at ease.
very interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. That is
So in a way of thinking, and this is something which I did with employees of Matt Cullen's company, where they were mostly stressed, and we were trying to figure out how to bring their stress down.
right.
And I taught them how to do the universal meditation, which is 4 in, 7 hold, 8 out, seconds of breathing.
Right.
And I realized that it brought instantly a physiological change, meaning that they instantly became more joyful. So I said, if you do it 3 times, which is in 1 minute, you have 3 19-second breathings. It brought a physiological change. They could feel the joy just by breathing.
Yes.
So I kind of now, going back to ChatGPT, we can sense in their tone, facial expression, and body language. And that's what physiological change is.
Right.
Yeah. So this is very interesting. I mean, it's like ChatGPT brings a slightly different perspective or angle to things we are talking about than we do.
Right.
So
right.
which is.
So, Dr. Joy, who came up with the name JoyScore?
Okay.
Because I don't think we've discussed that.
Okay, so I came up with the Joy. Joy started in 80s, inspired by Betty Edwards.
Right.
Learning that in order to be creative, you need to connect with your right brain, and your right brain gets activated when you're joyful or you're smiling. Like I said, GPT said that too,
Yes.
Now, so in 20-some years ago, I went to Harvard Business School OPM program. It's an executive program for 3 years. And in the program, I learned how, well, even though I had been very successful in business, but I still learned new approach to thinking about business and how to turn companies around. So in 2004, I broke my leg and I retired, and I said, I don't want to make any more money or do any business. So I got on full-time, full-scale on Joy and wrote the first book called Joy in Health and Happiness.
Right.
But then
But who added the score to JoyScore?
Then I started teaching a class to my presidents and vice presidents and project managers, my own management class. And we'll meet Thursday evenings for 2 hours and I'll teach a class. And this is something I have done in my other classes where I'll have the students read a book. And I'll let them read a book that they like to read, but it has to relate to some aspect of their improvement, something which would improve something about their activity or life or pursuit in life. So one of the books somebody reviewed was called Game of Work. And this guy was a football coach, and he was motivational speaker and coach for people in sales. And he said, keeping a score is breakfast for champions. I said, oh my God, where is the score in my joy? So actually, I stole the score from that book and added to my joy. So instead of joy and health and happiness, it became JoyScore.
Wonderful.
So this is a kind of, and I very openly am okay to say that I learned concept of joy from Betty Edwards. And learned this, you're checking it. Did you see it?
I am, yeah. It's how to organize work as though it were a game, making it interesting for employees by providing scorekeeping, feedback, goal setting, coaching.
Yeah.
You always want to beat your high score, too.
He's the one who talks about that the way he created pros, he taught them how to keep their score. So every game they played, they had to keep an eye on, did their score improved and how much? Because unless you keep track of your score, you don't know where you're going.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And this is again going back to, I remember watching, I don't know if either one of you heard or seen cartoons by Yogi Bear.
Oh, sure.
So, Yogi Bear sometimes has a kind of educational component in cartoons, And one of them I remember watching, he says, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up elsewhere. I said, oh my God. If you end up elsewhere, you don't know where it is, But by keeping score, you know where you're going. You're going up. You're improving. Now, what I learned in watching and observing people, the minute they download JoyScore app, now they know their score, whatever it is. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Mine is 93, but still it has no meaning unless you want to improve it, So the thing which I learned from everyone, and that's something typical of my students, they always want to know how to improve it. So if they got a grade, they always know how could they get a better grade, So this is a human mindset where they want to improve. So once they become part of JoyScore, or JoyScore becomes part of their life, they get on this journey to improve their JoyScore. And then nobody needs to push them. They push themselves to improve their JoyScore, and it becomes a lifelong journey to improve their JoyScore and be joyful.
Right.
In fact, it's funny that before you got involved with the project, there was a fellow in our group board. His name was David White, and he was a member of Joyce at Belmont also. So he had a friend who had 400 employees who go into home help, older people. They need help with different chores.
Sure.
And stuff. 400 people, and he said, look, can JoyScore help bring their stress level down and help my employees because they're pretty stressed, the kind of work they do and stuff like that. And then later on he comes around and says, by the way, I think it can be also helpful to my clients because most of them have lost hope. And JoyScore can give them hope how to improve their JoyScore. And I thought that was a marvelous idea.
It is.
Even though so the point is, it doesn't matter how old you are. In fact, my talk about hope, and how to improve your joy score or hope to improve your joy score. So this friend of mine, Al Booth, owned a company called Cosmetic Group USA, one of the largest manufacturers of cosmetics, So if you bought a lipstick for 50 cents or $50, it came from the same place, just different label. So I used to tease him, when we stood out and drank, and I said, Al, you kind of rob people, you sell them a bunch of crap and you charge them a lot of money, and some of them are working minimum wages and spending hundreds of dollars in your stores. He said, no, you don't understand our product. I said, what is your product? He said, we're not selling product, we're selling hope. I said, that is so interesting,
Absolutely.
So when someone goes in and spends a few $100s on cosmetics, they're buying hope.
That's a great point.
So that's what joy is.
Yeah, absolutely. No. So just to kind of recap in case somebody is joining us for the first time and everything.
Yeah.
So how does a person, so they find the app either through Google Play or through the
App Store,
and everything. What's going to happen once they open up the app? What's going to hit them right away?
Within a few seconds they open the app, they get their joy score. They answer 9 questions. And the way it's set up, there are 9 questions. There are 3 questions in the area of mind, 3 questions in the area of body, and 3 questions life.
Are they all multiple choice?
They are a sliding scale, like you scoring it.
Okay.
So you first question comes up, which is the area of mind. You slide the scale, 10 being highest and 1 being lowest, So wherever you slide the scale and stop, that becomes your answer to that question.
Got it.
So you answer all these questions, you slide these scales wherever you think you belong. And that instantly gives you your joy score. Now the beauty of joy score is it gives you a snapshot of where you are in terms of joy score.
Like a baseline, for example.
Now, a few years ago, we had a brand ambassador. She used to work for Knott's Berry Farm. And one time she said, hey, you want to buy dinner for my friends and we'll give you some feedback in anything you want. So soon developed a questionnaire and showed them characters and stuff like that. So I wanted to get my money's worth, buying him dinner, So anyway, so we tried to get a sense of what is the correlation between the joy score and credit score. Mm-hmm. So we weren't asking what's your credit score, but we'll say is it below 500 or over 500 or below 6 or over 6, things like that. And then we compare it to joy score. So interesting thing was we found correlation between the two. I said, how can it be possible that the joy score has anything to do with the credit score? And I kept on thinking, I said, there got to be a reason or explanation. And I said, I got it. So people who have a higher joy score, they're a little better connected with their life and what they do and grounded. And they're also connected and grounded with their finances. So it kind of made sense that people who would have a higher joy score would have a higher credit score. So somebody asked me, can you improve your credit score by improving your joy score? My answer is yes. There's another thing we are developing a proof of concept now is health score. So people who have a higher joy score also are healthier. In fact, if you, and I haven't done it, maybe I should do that as an experiment to have all the people coming to the gym get a joy score, and the people who are not coming to the gym, I bet you people coming to the gym have a higher joy score. Mm-hmm. Because they're just more interested in taking care of themselves. And this is how we are sort of trying to connect with the health insurance companies, because so JoyScore, bottom line is, number one, something that it really helps you achieve is mental health. That's number one.
Right.
Second is wellness. Because once you learn about your JoyScore and score in mind, body, and life, you start kind of feeling, why shouldn't I take care of myself? So you become believing in your wellness. And then you also start taking care of your life, so mind, body, and life. You start focusing on all three areas of your life. And when you do that, you have your life.
It's crazy to think that you can really change your whole life for the better just by changing, making yourself more joyful.
I mean, this is something I learned like years ago, where the concept of learning, and Gary and I are professors, so we spent our life helping people learn, and we believe and know what learning means.
Yeah.
So the first thing in learning is awareness. If you become aware of something you don't know or you need to learn, in fact, learning is very addictive, by the way.
Yes.
The more you learn, the more you need to learn.
Yeah.
So people who are most arrogant are the ones who don't know a lot.
Right.
But the people, as they start learning, like right now, I mean, I've done so much research on JoyScore and joy-related aspects, and now I realize I don't know anything, I'm asking ChatGPT to answer some of the questions.
But you know what? It sounds like ChatGPT has a lot to learn
Absolutely.
about JoyScore.
Yeah.
See, hey, did you realize that I'm smarter than ChatGPT?
Yeah, of course. I knew that ahead of time. What are you talking about?
And so with that, we will end this episode
Beautiful.
of Dr. J's podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steffi.
Thank you.
Dr. J.
Thank you.
Little history lesson for everybody. We hope that you'll join us on the YouTube channel and leave comments for us. We know that we're always learning. We can always get better with our podcast.
Absolutely.
So please leave comments, leave emails, texts, whatever. Join us on social media. We're on all the social media channels. And hope to see you next week.
Thank you.